Purple line is resistance. We've rallied back up to it. Now setting up likely a lower high just below it. I think you're going to come back down and take out 103 and move to the 50-week moving average. I think you got a shot at a good shot at a bottom at the 50-week. If I'm wrong, you start clearing resistance. You start seeing my signals turn back to bullish. You get the bigger move back now, the bigger Fibonacci retracement right now. Again, that's possible. I told you I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought we'd back test, and so far I've been right about that. So again, I have the guts to tell you what I think. I told you I thought we'd get the rally, but I thought it'd be feeble and back up to these resistance levels, which so far that is being proven correct. If I'm wrong, we go higher, and I explained to you what can happen if I'm wrong, because I'm not going to always be right. But I do have the guts to tell you what I think. And the purple line, when we dropped below it over here, it acted as resistance, and you went down. We got above it right here. Bars turned back to blue, and again, it acted as support. And again, you drop below it, bounced. Drop below it, bounced. We went sideways here, dropping below it, getting back above it. And then now we've turned off major resistance in the weekly time frame. We're turning here down below it, and it's now acting as resistance. So again, if the resistance levels hold, we should get another leg down towards the 50-week moving average, which I think is going to be the case. I called the peak here correctly, warned you of the risk of dropping to 100,000, called for the crash, was correct. Called for a rebound back up, or counter trend bounce, was correct, but told you we were still going to new lows. And then at the new lows at 103,000 here. And here, the low is 105,000. Some brokerages went lower to as low as 102,000, depending on which exchange chart you look at. But again, we're down to 103,000 here. They're all different with the liquidation move, Binance and Coinbase and other exchanges. This right here is the Bitcoin history, so it's showing the 105,000 area, lower low at 103,000. Bar is red, blue line, or I'm sorry, purple line is resistance. If you clear it, you can flip signals back to bullish. You get the bigger counter trend right now, or possibly trying to regain control. I doubt it. I think you get another flush out move down to the 50-week moving average, where I think you will bottom, and that will be followed by a bigger bounce, just my opinion. Red here, I think you've got this bullish falling wedge. You've got resistance, 112, 113, and we hit that 114,000 area just above it. Purple line here is acting as resistance here and over here, and right now, I think you're going to fall back into these resistance levels here, the 98,000 area, 101 or 100,000 or so, and then I think you're going to get a bigger rebound back up Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average. And if Bitcoin can get a bigger rally above the broken trend lines, as I've said, you can get the bigger counter trend right now. My guess is that's not going to be the case. So bars would have to turn back to blue here intraday. I warned one of my best indicators with the rally, it remained bearish. With the rally in the daily time frame, we broke this trend line right here. We're back testing it. Again, I think you're going to get rejection here, and then I think you're going to try to get above this and get a bigger rebound. But like I said, you lose the 50-week, then you're going to get a confirmation of a bear market and a bigger drop before any kind of meaningful bounce. Signals bearish still here. I've got all these weekly charts. If you watch the video all the way through, you'll see my weekly charts are all turning bearish over the last 2 or 3 weeks here. Warning signs of a top right here. Going daily chart again, signals remain bearish. Coming up to these resistance levels, I think you're likely going to get another push down. You got to clear them and flip everything back to bullish if we're going to get a bigger counter trend now, or try to bottom out and the bulls retake control. Keep talking about the Wyckoff pattern. You had a Wyckoff distribution pattern, schematic pattern number 1, distribution pattern number 1 there. Again, matching perfectly near perfect. But again, you get a high, you come down, you go make a higher high right here, and then you move back into that resistance zone from these previous highs. That's exactly what we did, and you got rejection there. When I called that top, do you remember when I called that top? I called the day of the top because we slammed into resistance, and I had all kinds of warning signs, and I told you to be watching for top going into it. And then you get this sell-off. And that's what we've had, and I don't think it's done. I think you're going to get one more push down, and then I think you're going to get a bigger bounce. You've got a Wyckoff distribution pattern here with this potential triple top, or in the weekly time frame, it's more of a larger double top in the weekly time frame. As I've said, even larger, a 3 drives to a high. Going further back. Warned you of a bounce back to the orange line, to the purple line here, and again, that's what's happened. The orange line is acting as resistance. You're likely moving back towards the pink line here. Again, called another short-term bottom surrounding this area based on the 4-hour bullish divergence that had formed. I told you it could be a big bounce or a small bounce, a feeble bounce. I told you I thought it'd be a feeble bounce and stall here at the orange or purple line. I was correct. Again, that 112 to 113, 114,000 area and the trend lines of resistance because I thought we'd have a back test. Exactly what's happened. Stalling here at the orange line. Use my signals to call the very day of the bottom in April, as you can clearly see right here. Calling the day of the bottom, calling these tops over here. Several topping signals over here. I had one here, but it went away, canceled out, even though it was correct. The signal ended up getting canceled out. How about that, huh? So we'll be watching what happens here at the orange line. Yeah, my signals, which are correct, warned of that bullish divergence giving us a bounce. I told you, again, I thought it'd be a feeble bounce, but I told you if my signals turn back to bullish, it'd be a bigger bounce. Right now, signals are still bearish. I think you're going to get another push down into Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average near the 102,000 area. You go drop below them and hit 100 to 101,000 and bottom out and then get a bigger bounce. Signals have done a very good job. The rally as predicted. 4-hour chart was correct. The signals were correct. But again, the trending signals are still bearish. Bigger rally, they have to turn back to bullish. That's possible. You got to flip my signals back to bullish. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel today. If you could take a moment to do that. I don't have any sponsors. Turn those offers down, but I need to hear from you. If you like my charts and you like my indicators, let me know you want this information. Thank you for your consideration for supporting the channel. Again, Bitcoin has stalled. Bitcoin stalled at the trend lines of resistance. We're trying to get just above this trend line, and we're hitting those other trend lines. You'll see in the video, the back testing the trend lines and overhead resistance, but turned off the 50 period. I still think you're going to drop back below the 200 and move down to the lower boundary of the these lows here pointing to the next low. Signals remain bearish. The bulls have to turn the signals back to bullish, the trending signals, to get a bigger rally. Right now, the risk is we get another dump, which I think is likely going to be the case. Got that topping signal at the top. Bars confirmed that, turning bearish. They turned back to bullish. We got the bottoming signal over here. They turned back to bullish, went to bearish, back to bullish, back and forth, really, as we have, again, gone and back tested the trend lines I talked about. I have no bearish signal here yet for the daily chart here. If we get rejection and a successful back test, you could see it happen, and we could get another leg down. We've dropped nearly 18% since my signals correctly called the top. We're still in a bullish signal here, but like I said, it's a counter trend in my opinion. My guess is it's going to be feeble. If we get my trending signals turning back to bullish, then it can be bigger. Weekly chart, we got a sell signal at the top. It was confirmed with bars turning back to bearish. If we could bounce off the 50-week, you could see it revert back to bullish for a larger counter trend. Eventually, I think we're headed to the 200-week, currently at the 54,000 area. I think we'll bounce, get a lower high, and then go down and move 50% eventually when we take out the 50-week, 50% lower like we did back in 2021. That means we get a drop of $65,000. That means we drop down to 60,500 and again towards our 200-week moving average. And eventually I think you take that out. Again, I'm going to say it again. Bitcoin, if it has topped, which I believe it has, is going to 25,000 or lower, 18, 25,000. 80% drop is 25,000. Bear markets for Bitcoin are 80 to 90%. If you get 86 or 84%, again, you're going closer towards 18 or 20,000. I don't think Bitcoin's bottomed yet here for the short term. I still think we hit the Bitcoin average price and the 50-week moving average. Will likely drop under those levels. I think you're back testing these trend lines again from the April low and the higher low in April and May. And again, you're back testing it here with the topping tail on the 50, and then you're back testing it right now. I think you're going to get rejection and went down too far there. I think you're going to come down here and bottom out with the Fed and try to get a bigger rebound surrounding the Fed in all likelihood. Herd believes the rate cuts are bullish, the rate cuts are bearish because a recession is coming, and a recession is likely going to start in December or January. The Fed will be doing jumbo cuts. January, you're probably going to get a counter trend and then drop into a January low by 50%. By January, I think Bitcoin will be down 50%. Great Scott, did you hear what I said? I think Bitcoin will be down around 200-week moving average, down 50%, at least 50% to 63,000 by January. That's what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to bottom, bounce, and then I think you're going to get a lower high and collapse. Watch my video on the emergency jumbo cuts that are coming in January. They're actually going to give Bitcoin a short-term bottom when they happen. That's between January 4th and January 21st. This week we'll get a quarter-point cut. December we'll get a quarter-point cut. Jumbo cuts coming. Emergency Fed meeting coming in January. The signal's called a short-term bottom here. We had that topping signal on many of my signals at the top. Again, this is just looking at short-term momentum. Signals are still bearish. You're likely going to get another leg down. This is likely just a feeble counter trend. Now here, bars are still bearish since it's the peak and the warning sign. We get that warning sign of a bounce here. Again, no warning sign of a sell-off. They don't always form. We did not get one over here. We just got a false signal counter trend, which is what I think this is. And I think we just have a counter trend up. Swing trend signals remain bearish. I warned you about a bounce. I warned you about a rebound. I told you I thought it'd be a feeble rebound. Signals remain bearish on Bitcoin, but I got those bottoming warning signs with the bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart. One of the concerns is we've seen my long-term candles, my long-term trending candles turn back to red. They turned red. We went to a new high. They flipped to blue briefly at resistance. They flipped right back to red. Again, the previous bottoms have been at Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average. The risk is that you turn red and you remain that way and you take out Bitcoin's average price, you drop below the 200 period, we try to bounce off of it, move back to the 50 period, the green line's the 50, the black line's the 200. The risk is you lose Bitcoin's average price, you lose the 200 period moving average, you drop below them, and then you rally back up to them as we did here, and you confirm a bear market. I think you're going to try to bottom right here, bounce, go up and make a lower high at the 61.8 Fibonacci, and then I think you're going to break this level, but the risk is we break it immediately. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? We could break it immediately. While I think we'll bounce off Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average, I could be wrong about that. I have the guts to tell you what I think. It's just my opinion. If my signals remain bearish and we just plow on right through those levels and keep dropping, then again, Bitcoin will go lower. I think by January, Bitcoin, like over here, in 2021, Bitcoin dropped 52% before it got any kind of real meaningful rebound. I think you're going to likely attempt to bounce around the Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average, but then I think you'll break those levels. So if we break them and my signals remain bearish, then we're going to confirm a bear market immediately. But Bitcoin's average price has been acting as support all the way up. It acted as resistance all the way down. You break that level, you're going to confirm a bear market. It's as simple as that. This is why I'm telling you, this is where I think we go, because this is where the bottoms are, just above it here, at it here, and at it here, just beyond it. Same is true for the 50-week moving average. But the risk is, with my longer term trending bars turning back to red, the risk is, which have been only red through the pullbacks, the risk is they remain that way and that you are now entering a bear market. Tried to flip back to blue, but we hit resistance, got rejection. That's when my signals flashed atop at resistance. And again, you're likely not going to bottom until you hit the 50-week moving average and Bitcoin's average price, where I think you're going to bounce. I think that will complete a 5-leg push lower. And then I think you'll get a counter trend rally, a bigger counter trend rally back up to the 115, 116,000 area. If you go higher, the 120 to 121,000 area. Again, this going into my thinking that, again, the bull market could be over for Bitcoin. Now, if we end up losing Bitcoin's average price, the 50-week moving average, you can get a death cross sooner rather than later. I think you're going to try to bounce And again, maybe get back above that 50, get a bigger rebound than what we're getting here, and get a larger Fibonacci retracement of the whole move, which I think is likely. That's just my opinion, but I'm warning you of the risk if we lose this level and confirm a bear market. Again, I don't know that I'm going to be right. I just have the guts to tell you what I think. The bullish scenario is we bounce up this level, things flip back to bullish, and we can clear resistance. I think that is less likely now. I think the divergences in the weekly and the monthly time frame are now going to play out and have us enter a bear market. I think it's already started. Now, I warned you at the bottom that we were going to get a counter trend bounce based on the divergences that were developing in the 4-hour time frame before the rally ever started. The divergences were setting up, and I warned you about it, and then I got confirmation of that. And I told you we can get a feeble bounce to these trend lines. The trend line here from the higher low. They have an April low here, and then a higher low in April, and then the May low here, and again the high over here, and it's pointing up. And you touched it here, at the September low, and 107,000, and then we couldn't break it with the flash crash, got bounced off of it, and then we broke it, and we're back testing. We broke it, and we're back testing that trend line right now. Okay, and that's hitting this trend line. So again, you're likely going to get rejection off of this trend line in blue from the highs, and this trend line right here from these lows over here that, again, is being broken and back tested. Then you have the trend line from the April low, when I called the very day of the bottom, and again, we eventually broke that, tried to bounce, got back above it, but broke it, and again, you back tested it here with our high right here. I think you're setting up a lower high, lower than this high right here at 114,000, but I talked about these resistance levels, the 112,000, 113, 114,000 area at these trend lines. Told you I thought we were going to back test down here. Gee, what's happened? Oh, we back tested. I was right. If I'm wrong about a bigger rebound right here now, then you get the bigger counter trend right here now before going lower. If Bitcoin in fact has topped, I think you're going to see a top here. One reason why is because look at the RSI. It's pulling up to the 50 level here. It's pulling up to the 50 level. And these trend lines, both of these trend lines, and maybe if we get above this one, then maybe you go to the other one and you get another topping tail or something. But you're pulling up to the 50. Okay, and in the downtrend, the 50 has acted as resistance, and then you turn down. We got the rally back over here, bouncing off of this trend line right here, and you moved up to the 50 level. You're in the negative region, so that's not good. So again, we'll be watching. Now, if you can clear these trend lines, then I'm going to be wrong about a feeble bounce, and we'll get a bigger bounce. We'll see all my signals, all my trending signals begin to turn back to bullish. Right now, again, the majority of them are bearish, but momentum has turned back up, predicting this rally as I've warned. I think it's over with this peak over here at 114,000, just my opinion, but I'm telling you what could happen if I'm wrong. We get the bigger bounce right here and now. I think you're going to come back down to the lower boundary. I think these lows are pointing to the next low, and I think you're going to test 98,000, and I think you're going to hit the 50-week moving average at the 102,000 area and drop below it and hit 100,000 to 101,000, likely 100,000, and hit this trend line, and I think you will bottom out and then have a bigger counter trend with a bullish falling wedge. So that's what I think is going to happen. If I'm wrong, we see a bigger move with the stochastic higher. We see a bigger move higher with the MACD, and we clear these levels of resistance, and my signals all begin to turn back to bullish. So again, I'm telling you, I could be wrong. I'm telling you what I think. Or I've been right about the peak, right about the crash, right about the counter trend rallies that we've had, right about the break of the trend lines, right about the back tests. Will I be right about the bullish falling wedge? Will I be right about the 50-week moving average being tested? I think I will. But again, if we come up to the RSI and turn down off of it, you're likely going to see the counter trend complete. I warned you about the divergence at the top right here, this larger divergence. And again, I told you, chance you're going to the 50-week moving average. Now, if we just went above it like we did back over here, then maybe you get that bigger counter trend right now. And that's why I'm telling you, I could be wrong. RSI tried to drop below 50 here. It's trying to turn back and firm up at it. So if we can get a bigger counter trend right now, then my signals, my trending signals, are going to start flipping back to bullish. If that happens, and again, I turn back to short-term bullish, I did a short-term bounce that I thought would be feeble, and I think we're still going to hit the 50-week moving average, likely turn under it like we did over here and over here. But if we get something like what we had over here, then maybe you get it right now. So again, I'm telling you what could happen if I'm wrong. I'm not predicting that will happen. I'm telling you what will happen if I'm wrong. I'm predicting that we're going to hit the 50-week moving average and bottom out around 100,000 to 101,000. And again, if I'm wrong about that, the more bearish case is we lose this level and confirm a bear market by closing below the 50-week moving average, closing below the 50-week moving average like we did over here, and then you get an open and close below it, confirming the bear market. So again, the risk is you do that immediately rather than later, or bouncing off of it either here right now or just underneath the 50-week moving average. I'll be right. The stochastic has dropped below 50 in the weekly time frame, pointing down. The MACD still remains bearish. It's pointing down. So I think I'm going to be correct about this. The risk is that, again, we don't bounce at the 50-week moving average. The risk is that we bust it immediately, confirm the bear market. As I keep saying, you get a 52% drop like we had over here before you get any kind of meaningful bounce. And that would be that we confirm the bear market, and then we come back up and, back test the trend line and, back test the 50-week moving average. So that's very possible. It's more possible you bounce off the 50-week, and that's just my personal opinion. But again, I'm open-minded to all the scenarios, the bearish one, the bullish one, and the bounce scenario here that I believe is likely going to be the case. But again, I'm what I think, and then I'm telling you what can happen if I'm wrong, because I try to remain objective and unbiased. Now we're just slightly overthrowing the trend line. Here's a 4-hour chart. I think you're going to confirm a lower high here with the RSI, and I think you're getting this larger divergence, as I've warned. I think you're going to get another dump, and you're going to see a triple bullish divergence end up forming here, coming down into this area here. And again, I think these lows are pointing to the next low, and then I think you're going to get a larger counter trend that will exceed this high, just under the 200, and I think you'll move back to the 61.8 Fibonacci, near 115, 116,000 if we hit 100,000. Use these divergences to call all the tops and bottoms correctly. Been nailing it. Again, predicted the sell-off here with that, predicted the bottom here, the bounce with this divergence, but I told you I don't think it's done yet. And notice the 50 is still below the 200 period. It's curling up, but it's still below the 200 period. We got rejection off of the 200 period. I think you're going to drop back below the 50, and then I think you're going to carve out a bottom around the 50-week moving average. And I've shown you my Elliot wave count in each video. This is what I think is happening. And again, I just moved the scenario forward to the Fed meeting next week. If we drop into the Fed meeting, we're just slightly overthrowing this trend line right here. I think you've still got a bullish falling wedge. I think you'll end up getting this push down. Again, if I'm wrong, then this is a bottom, and we get the larger counter trend right now. I think this rally is going to end up filling if my signals remain bearish. Now, if we can clear the 200, my signals are all going to start flipping back to bullish. You get the larger counter trend right now. I think this is a more feeble counter trend, as I warned you about down over here at 103,000 when the bullish divergence was forming in the 4-hour time frame. This is the 4-hour time frame. I think you're getting this final leg down. I think you've got a wave 1 here, a wave 2. I think this whole thing is 3 right here with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. I think that whole thing is 3. And then I think you had 4 here. And I think you're now in your 5th wave. And I think you're getting 1, 2 with the lower high here. And then I think you're going to get the 3, the 4, and the 5 down into this trend line near 100,000. I think you'll bottom maybe a little bit higher at 101,000, maybe a little bit lower, somewhere above 98,000. But I think the 50-week moving average at 102,000 is likely going to act as support. Now, again, if we were just above it over here at 103,000, maybe you get that larger counter trend right now. And I'm open-minded to that if my trending signals turn back to bullish. I don't think that's going to happen, but again, I'm telling you what could happen. That is certainly possible, and don't want to rule that out. I try to remain open-minded. I think we'll bottom out here. This is taking us into the Fed meeting. Then you could get an ABC back up. But if we bottom out around the mid 100,000 area, low 100,000 area, or whatever, I think you can get a Fibonacci retracement, 61.8 fib of this decline, and that takes you back to the 115, 116,000 area. I've drawn a parallel boundary with these lows And I think that'll mark a bottom. I think it'll mark a top. And the moon boys will go, oh, it's an inverse head and shoulders. They're already doing it here. It's an inverse head and shoulders. See the bullish patterns, but they never see the bearish patterns. And that's why they never see the sell-offs coming, because they're so biased. Able to see the April bottom because I'm objective. I was able to see the tops in July, August, and October because I try to remain objective. I look for turning points up and down because I'm a trader and I trade it back and forth. This is what I think is going to happen here, and I think we'll end up getting rejection in this area. And again, I think you'll end up getting this larger counter trend, and maybe you go as high as the 78.6 Fibonacci to the 120, 121,000 area or so, depending on where we come in and find a bottom here, if I'm correct about the next leg down. Now again, if my signals all begin to turn back to bullish, then I'm going to be wrong about this next leg down, and we found a bottom just above the 50-week moving average, and we're getting the counter trend right now, and this would be a 5-leg push, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we're now getting the larger ABC right now. So that's the alternative count, which again, if I'm wrong, then that is likely in play. The bullish count is that we find a bottom and turn things around. I would think that's less likely. Video, but right here, a trend. Again, the trend is not neutral. The trend is bearish. Okay, the bars are still red. There's no bottoming signal here. Back up at the top, we got a reversal signal up here, just ahead of the peak. I warned you about that at the time. Again, some of these other reversals and bottoming signals and topping signals, a bottom back over here at the bottom. We don't have anything here. Zero, zip, nada. Still think you get one more flush out move to the 50-week moving average before a bigger bounce, and then I think you bounce off that 50-week moving average. Bitcoin's up 0.58% here on the Saturday session. We're rallying back up to the downward trend line for a test. Signals remain bearish. I expect we're going to see rejection in this area and another push down. Again, we got bottoming signals, warning of a rally, just as I warned you at the top that we were going to sell off at major resistance, just as I warned you back over here and back over here. There would be a sell-off at major resistance that was in the weekly time frame. The signals were correct. And again, the signals could turn back to bullish. We can get the bigger counter trend right now. I will have been right about a counter trend. I will have been wrong about a bigger counter trend. I told you I thought it would be a feeble counter trend, and we still go make new lows. I could be wrong about that, but again, I have the guts to tell you what I think. I'm not predicting a bigger counter trend, but if one happens, then we'd be looking at the larger Fibonacci retracements to get the bigger counter trend right here. Now, I think you go hit the 50-week moving average first, likely drop below it. Test 100,000 to 101,000. Our low previously was 103,000. I warned you at the top that, again, get a 10.5% rally followed by a 20% drop back to the 100,000 area and to the 50-week moving average. So far, that's happened. We've dropped 18% now and to 103,000, just above the 50-week moving average. So again, I still expect one more push down. Get rejection at the trend line. I expect my signals to remain bearish. Most of my signals are bearish. Got warning signs at resistance in the weekly time frame. Here is the weekly time frame again. Weekly signals of turning back to bearish. I mean, we're either getting a correction or you've got a top and you're getting a reversal like what we had back over here. People going, why did you say we were going to sell off at resistance? Because we hit resistance. Warned and warned and warned of a possible 4-year cycle coming to a conclusion. Talked about the bullish case. I've talked about the bearish case. Told you what needs to happen for the bulls. Told you what needs to happen for the bears. But I warned you. And again, a lot of people they cherry pick what they want to hear. They hear the bullish things, but they don't hear the bearish things. Or the bears, they hear the bearish things, but they don't hear the bullish things. Again, right now, my signals are bearish, so I'm bearish. My signals turn back to bullish, and I see evidence of a bottom at the 50-week moving average. I will turn back to bullish. You're going to bounce there, but I think it's going to set up a lower high. I believe Bitcoin's topped. I will continue to present the bullish narrative because we have not confirmed a bear market. I'll continue to tell you I think Bitcoin is topped. I see evidence of it. I think the 4-year cycle has completed. I warned you as we're going up into this trend line, it could produce a top. And if I see evidence of a top, then you got a good shot of it. If we close below the 50-week moving average here in the weekly time frame with our linear scaling, and you get an open and close the following week, you're going to confirm a bear market. As I've continued to say, that's going to tell me we're in a bear market. We're confirming it. We don't have that yet. Bulls need to clear this level. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. If they can do it, then we're looking at our Fibonacci levels, the 150,000, 175,000 area, the Fibonacci extensions, levels Bitcoin has reached in the past, but each bull cycle continues to produce diminishing returns. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? Each bull market cycle continues to produce diminishing returns. The returns get smaller, the percentage gains decline. And again, this is the trend line that we've seen mark the 2017 top, the 2021 top, and again, probably the top here in 2025. We're about to have a recession. It's likely going to start December or January. Bitcoin's going to price that in, and a wrecking ball is going to be taken to Bitcoin during the recession. When the recession starts, Bitcoin's likely going to drop significantly. I believe by January, Bitcoin will have lost about 50%. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? I believe that by January, Bitcoin will have lost 50%. The Fed will likely do jumbo cuts in January. I'm predicting between January 4th and 21st, the Fed, and if you want to know why, go watch my latest video on my Ron Walker channel, and I explain it. I think you'll get jumbo cuts by January, between January 4th and January 21st, ahead of the Fed meeting in late January. And I think you'll get jumbo cuts. I think that will be a Bitcoin bottom in January that will rally back up for a bigger counter trend, which will likely be below by January the 50-week moving average and the 200-day moving average in the daily time frame. With the Bitcoin weekly chart with our log scaling, we have turned off of the 2021 trend line. So with the linear, I just showed you the 2017 trend line here from the 2021 peaks. The top, the previous top that ended the bull cycle. Again, this looks very similar. And again, these highs could be pointing to the next high that could be pointing to the top, which again, we've just had the red trend line here from the peak in 2024, December 2024, January 2025, pointing up into these highs in July, August, and October. 4-year cycle suggests that Bitcoin ends the 4-year cycle ends in October. I've made a video about that nearly 2 weeks ago. If you haven't watched it, go find it on my YouTube channel, and it talks about the 4-year cycle, and I look at different measurements, and they all point towards October. Again, we're turning off of resistance. This is why I called a top in August, and I told you we're going to sell off back to the 50-week moving average, or again, maybe under it. I'm looking at this trend line right here very carefully. But again, I think you're going to try to bounce surrounding the 50-week moving average as we've done, just above it here, right at it, and just below it here, and then here, and then here. Again, I think you're going to get a bounce right here, and then I think the Moon Boys, which continue to be wrong. They were wrong about the top. It's a breakout. They were wrong about the crash. I told you we were going to crash down to 100,000. Made a whole video about it. Again, what happened when during the last government shutdown, you rallied up 10.5%, you dropped down 20%. That's a drop down to 100,000. So far, I've been right. Attacking me for being right and turning bearish appropriately when my signals tell me to be bearish, because again, I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes, up or down. I'm a trader. I trade it back and forth. I go long, I go short. Now I'm bearish. If we bounce off the 50-week moving average, I would turn back to short-term bullish, thinking we rally up towards 115, 116,000, maybe as high as 120 to 121,000, but I think that Bitcoin is likely topped. And I told you what would change my mind, and if I'm presented with evidence, I will change my mind because I'm unbiased. I don't care which way Bitcoin goes. 95% of the crypto community cares which way Bitcoin goes, and they're biased. Either you have, the majority of them are perma bulls, a smaller percentage are perma bears. I am neither bull nor bear. I'm not interested in the bullish side or the bearish side. I'm interested in the right side of the trade. Now signals are bearish. I think you're going to bottom and bounce. Great Scott, did you hear what I said? I think you're going to try to bottom and bounce. Now, if I'm wrong, again, I tell you what I think. If I'm wrong, you lose the 50-week moving average. You get a confirmation of the bear market immediately, then you're going to go a whole lot lower like we did here before you get any kind of meaningful bounce back up to the 50. If you confirm a bear market like we did right here immediately. If we bounce, then come back up and you get back above the horizontal trend line, then you can get a lower high and then come back and break these levels, break the 50-week moving average, break the trend line, and then rally back up. And again, going into January, then the Fed could panic. We've had plenty of time to get the rally now, but again, I could be wrong. I tell you what could happen if I'm wrong, because I try to remain objective. I look at both the bullish and the bearish scenarios. People can't do that. Most people don't have the ability to do that. Most people only look at the bullish scenarios and that's it. And that's why the moon boys never see the tops. When I called the bottom down here, Herd have thrown in the towel on the moon boys, and I told you that again we were bottoming in April at key support. Herd very bearish at bottoms, very bullish at tops, and that's why they never see what's going on either. And again, most of the time they're duped by the moon boys. Things get really bad for Bitcoin, then they're duped by the perma bears. And trying to remain objective, I think you're going to dip below the line here, then get back above it here. I think you're going to get a move down to the 50-week moving average, and then I think you're going to get a bounce.